I want to piece this together as best I can. There's a lot of factors on this, but I want you to listen carefully. This week, you have the Davos gathering. And in Davos, the most important thing, this is above climate change and everything else, is mis- and disinformation. The president of the European Union just spoke at Davos, said our freedom comes with risks. The top concern is disinformation and misinformation as the boundary between online and offline is getting thinner and thinner. The top concern for the next 2 years is not conflict. It is not climate. It is disinformation and misinformation. The Global Risk Report says that addressing misinformation and disinformation take priority even over extreme weather events, war, terrorist attacks, and inflation. Got it? Global warming is an existential threat. Terror attacks like what happened in Israel and war. Inflation, which can collapse your dollar. All of those things are now secondary to mis- and disinformation. For the global business community, the top concern for the next 2 years is not conflict, it's disinformation and misinformation. The boundary between online and offline is getting thinner and thinner, and it is more important than ever in the era of generative AI. The World Economic Forum's Global Risk Report puts artificial intelligence as one of the top potential risks of the next decade, but of the next 2 years, it's you. They also called for a global regulatory body to oversee artificial intelligence. In other words, take control of AI and digital ID systems akin to vaccine passports. It is important, she said, to harness and guide this technology responsibly. So what does all that mean? I believe that we are now measuring things in my world by days and months, not by years. We are now looking at people labeling us, me, the Daily Wire, anybody you trust, as mis- and disinformation. And it is happening in real time. We told you a couple of weeks ago that our spy agencies and our Pentagon are in league with the Five Eyes, and they are doing misinformation, disinformation, editing, and also cognitive training. So they are training the way you think by controlling what you're seeing. Let me give you this story that just came out from The Independent. This is new today. Climate misinformation is rapidly mutating across social media, allowing nefarious actors to skirt restrictions and continue to profit, according to a new report. With climate-driven disasters now impossible to ignore, outright denials of climate change no longer hold up with most people. That's not true. The people who believe in climate change, the people who are believing that this is some sort of disaster, is actually going down. It has less credibility than ever before. In the murky online realm of climate misinformation, there is a shift in tactics that is in motion. Researchers, notice that word, researchers analyzed thousands of hours of YouTube content from the past 6 years and found that old climate crisis denial, which claims that global heating is not happening and burning fossil fuels is not the cause, is giving way to a new type of misleading content intended to muddy the waters. The report by the nonprofit research group Center for Countering Digital Hate, This is the Media Matters, if you will, the new replacement, I think, for Media Matters. It comes out of England, but there's also an office here in America. We'll get into that on a later episode. They found that this new denial falls into a few broad groups, that the impact of global warming or global heating are beneficial or harmless. The second group is climate solutions won't work, and that climate science and the climate movement can't be trusted. Those are all mis and disinformation. Climate scientist and author Michael Mann describes these new misinformation strategies as the 5 Ds of inactivism: deflection, delay, division, despair, and doomism. They found that videos containing new denials doubled since 2018 on YouTube. In total, there were more than 34,000 climate crisis denial claims on 96 channels that were analyzed, amounting to more than 325 million views. The shift has been rapid and stark. As old climate denial narratives declined across YouTube, new denial has surged. The later now accounts for 70% of climate misinformation on YouTube, while old denial has dropped 30%. The Amrad Ahmed, the CCDH's chief executive, explained. So this story from The Independent has one source, and it is Media Matters, if you will, this new group that is trying to counter digital hate. There's been a clear shift in the climate misinformation on YouTube in the last 6 years, blah, blah, blah. Mr. Ahmed said the new findings were somewhat optimistic because they showed that scientists and activists have been successful in conveying the facts of climate change to people. Climate advocates and policymakers must recognize this shift or risk losing the information battle necessary to deliver climate solutions. Let me say that sentence again. Climate activists and policymakers must recognize this shift or risk losing the information battle necessary to deliver climate solutions. While climate denial trends were evident across social media, blah, 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 the study focused on YouTube, which is owned by Google, a platform that has formidable presence as information resource for billions of people, while at the same time being able to reward people on that channel. Using AI tools trained on climate denial, the study found YouTube is made up to $13.4 million in revenue on videos espousing new types of climate crisis. Google's current policies, which are intended to demonetize and de-amplify climate misinformation, do not tackle the new denial. YouTube continues to serve ads on old forms of climate crisis denial barred under its policies. Google also announced in 2021 that it would stop monetizing climate crisis denial content. In a statement to The Independent, a YouTube spokesperson said our climate change policy prohibits ads from running blah, 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 blah. However, when content crosses the line into climate change denial, we stop showing ads on those videos. The shift from older tropes on conservative outlet BlazeTV to a brand new climate denial. The study analyzed videos made by fossil fuel lobby groups, media companies, and individual pundits. One of those highlighted in the report is Jordan Peterson, a psychiatrist with 7.5 million YouTube subscribers. His channel typically takes the format of interviews with fellow climate change deniers, where posts have included titles such as The Great Climate Con and The Killing the Poor to Save the Planet. The Independent contacted Dr. Peterson for comment. BlazeTV, founded by conservative firebrand Glenn Beck, regularly features climate change denial. The media company has also shared false claims about the 2020 presidential election, along with hosting Sandy Hook conspiracy theorist Alex Jones. In a video published July 2022 and watched 71,000 times, Mr. Beck claims the Biden administration is using the climate crisis as a cover for government control and a great reset, an online conspiracy theory that claims the global elite is trying to dismantle capitalism and create a new social order. They do not care about saving the planet. They know climate change is not going to kill millions around the world. This is about gaining power and control over you. They are using this so-called emergency to justify a great reset, Mr. Beck said on the video. The Independent, much to my surprise, has contacted BlazeTV for comment. The CCDH, the Center for Disarming Hate, study found that in some cases, YouTube splits ad revenues with a channel, reportedly paying 55% to the content creator and retaining 45%. The ads served on the new denial were major brands like Hilton Hotels, global charities, Save the Children, and International Rescue Committee. They called on YouTube and other social media platforms to update their policies to keep up with the new forms of climate crisis denial, along with removing any financial incentives and reducing their reach and visibility. People have the right to post this content, but do you have to reward them with money and give them a megaphone? They added, "We're not blaming Google for not recognizing this, but we want to make some small changes to their policies. Don't reward this content and profit from it." Jordan Peterson has, in his attempt to have the Ontario justice system prevent the College of Psychologists of Ontario from ordering him to undergo remedial social media training, has lost his bid. Panel of 3 judges in the Court of Appeals dismissed his motion for leave to appeal an earlier decision by the Ontario Divisional Court. No reason was given. So this is giving Canada and Trudeau, it's giving all of the regulatory bodies and any organization that has you have to have a license, much broader field to be very, very aggressive. Now, there is no free speech in Canada. This is now codified by that court. Over the course, this is what they got him on. Over the course of 2022, the college, which governs the conduct of psychologists practicing in Ontario, received a number of complaints about Peterson's online behavior. The concerned tweets include his tweet about a plus-side Sports Illustrated model whom he said was not beautiful. Elliot Page's gender transition, who he said had her breasts removed by what he called a criminal physician. There are also complaints about his views on climate change and aggressive conduct towards Gerald Butts, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's former principal secretary. They investigated those complaints and felt that he needed to go into a re-education camp or lose his license. Why doesn't he just give up his license? Because then you abandon a very important licensed group of people, doctors. Once you get people of conscience out, you can do anything. They've already purged the doctors who disagreed with listening to the government and listening to Big Farm about only one way to treat COVID. They've already gotten rid of those people. They got rid of the doctors and the nurses that wouldn't wear masks, wouldn't distance 6 feet, said that was nonsense. We now know it is. They got rid of the doctors who said this does not look like it came from bats. This looks like it was designed in a laboratory. They got rid of all of those people. You cannot keep getting rid of doctors and psychiatrists who have a conscience. But that's what's happening. And they're doing it to now those of us who speak out to try to tell you the truth as we perceive it. These are opinions, but you cannot have opinions anymore. They say that I'm a climate denier, climate change denier. No, the climate is always changing. Always. I disagree, and I have since An Inconvenient Book, which was printed when, 2008?
I thought it was a couple of years before that, actually.
Okay, so since this, I wrote a whole book about climate change and Al Gore, and I say in it that I agree the climate is changing. It always does. And I can read a thermometer. At that time, it was going up. But I think that all of the solutions are insane because it will cripple society, cripple all modernity. What did they get me on here, Stu?
From the report?
Yeah, from the report that was the Independent is now reporting that I'm being monitored and watched because I'm dangerous.
As if you don't know your evils. This is, I'm looking through the report. Here's one of the things they say makes you guilty. Quote, if we try to go without fossil fuels in our lifetime, you're going to see the standard of living plummet. You're going to see our security plummet, and it's going to be a disaster, end quote.
Yep, that's my opinion. But apparently that's misinformation.
I mean, that's an incredible one because in our lifetime, what are you? I mean, you got to be 5 years from death. I mean, we're not going to be able to turn this around that fast.
Minutes. I'm not suicidal, by the way.
No, but seriously, what you talk about in the next 40 years, right?
Yeah.
That would be a hell of a transition.
Sure would.
By any standard, that if you transitioned completely away from fossil fuels in the next 40 years, and by the way you phrase this, you're not even limiting a transition possibility. You're just saying it can't happen that quickly.
Yeah, I was talking about 2030 and 2035.
So I think that's a pretty defensible opinion, but also it's just an opinion. Yeah. It's just what you think might happen in these circumstances.
That's what I do for a living.
Then we have, let's see. Beck, this is incredible. Beck falsely claims there's been zero warming for over a decade. Media Matters for America is the source of this claim. April 23rd, 2010. Now, I happen to just for the fun of it, go back to 2010. When you made this claim, you would be talking about the 2009 would not have been released yet. You'd be talking about the decade of 1998 to 2008. In 1998, we were plus 0.63 degrees Celsius. In 2008, we were plus 0.55 degrees Celsius. So actually, there was a very slight... Again, you were not saying there was no climate change. You were just saying in the decade you were talking about, there had been no warming across the globe. That is from the NOAA. NOAA.gov. You can check it out.
That's disinformation because it disagrees. Now, listen, here's the important thing. I can't believe I'm telling you this, and I've been subtly telling you it for a while that it is coming. It is no longer coming. It is here. I started the Blaze to be the Alamo, to only rely on you, that they would crush us every way they can, and they are going to. They are starting to. My Facebook page is down 95%. Now, there's no way that is true. We are having our best year ever. The last 3 years have been tremendous growth. We have more listeners and viewers than we've ever had, even when we were at Fox. And yet my Facebook page is down 95%. The only metric that is down is social media. Isn't that weird? Everything else is skyrocketed up. Social media is down. By the way, Facebook at one point, they brought me out to Silicon Valley to talk to their people, correct me if I'm misstating this, to find out how we were over-indexing Facebook. I thought I was going to join a meeting and I was going to ask them, how could we better? And they said, no, we called you here. You didn't call this meeting. We called you here. We wanted to know how you were over-indexing. What is it that you're doing? We want to study this. Okay? We've gone from that to down 95%. Wow, that's weird. All of a sudden, we become morons on social media, even though we run a social media empire. That's weird. Listen, first thing you have to do is go to my email newsletter. It's free. This story is, I think, the last story in it, or you can find it at The Independent, and go look for all of the shows we have done recently on what our government is doing. This is the Canadian and the European government targeting Google to silence us. Now we also have this pressure in the United States. You need to know what's true and what's not. You need to alert your friends. You can do it on social media, but I would private DM them. I would put it on X because you know that it will go through on X. I would subscribe to my free email newsletter, not because I want to tell you, but I need to know how to contact you if we lose touch. I would also switch primarily to X. That is troublesome as well because while this organization planted or did this story independently with the Independent, I went to their website. Their number one target is Elon Musk. This is not going to happen because of global warming. This is a priority, mainly in America and the rest of the world, because of Donald Trump. Look at what they're doing to Trump. You don't think they'll silence people? It will be troublesome for them. As they've said in their own words, it will be troublesome because they have large audiences. But the private sector needs to figure it out. And that's why Google and YouTube and everybody else is going to receive the pressure, already have Facebook down 95%, because our voices must be silenced. Because Donald Trump this year poses a great threat to their power. I would also have some money in Bitcoin. I would begin to listen for what must become subtle. I have a ham radio, do you? I have a CB, do you? I think I'm learning to play the piano now, but I think I should stop and learn smoke signals. We must be able to communicate with each other. The last is my piece of advice to you that I urge you, please listen. Get close to Christ. Clear out all of the things you fear could be exposed. Clear out all of the mistakes that you have made. Use the atonement and redemption. Use it. It's a free gift. It will take away many of your fears of, well, I got to do this because this could come out. Get rid of it. Stop it. Just clean it up right now. Because as much as many of us in this business like to think we are replaceable or unreplaceable, we are very replaceable. And I am urging you to become my replacement. I am urging you now to do the things where you will be a credible source in your own circle. You must do research. You must not just hop a bandwagon. You must root yourself in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and the Declaration of Independence if you want to save our country. If you want to save souls and people, then root yourself in the gospel. My recommendation is both. But I am very replaceable. You won't like the replacement. You must become the replacement. Please. This is the reason now why I built the Blaze, to survive this. We need to stay in touch. Join us, blazetv.com/Glenn. Use the promo code Glenn30 and save 30%.